Queensland, Queensland, Queensland. Absolute atrocious scenes from the New South Wales Blues. They were outclassed, outmaneuvered. Absolutely, motivation is key in rugby league, and Queensland got all the motivation they need with the passing of Steve Munster. Condolences to the family. Hope you're doing okay and get through this tough time together as a group. But absolutely stunning from Queensland. New South Wales never, ever looked like a chance of winning this game. Even when Crichton scored, that was just pure. They had all the ball, they had to score. It was simple as that. But apart from that, they just did not look likely at all till right at the end. And there were some big players that absolutely choked on the biggest stage, including Cleary and Laurie. Absolutely, they weren't the only ones, but they were the keys to try and turn this around, and they did not pull a shot. Cleary, he did run, but they didn't run enough early. In the first half especially, they weren't going direct. Him and Laurie, they were going too sideways, playing like it's club footy. You got to go direct in Origin. That is the biggest thing in Origin. It's just straight up the middle, straight up the middle, straight up the middle, till someone gives up. And well, New South Wales pretty much gave up in the first half. But it's all about going up the middle, and that's what that's what Queensland did. They had Papali'i, they had Tino, they had Patrick Carrigan come on and do the job. Lindsay Collins, all they do is just run hard, hard, hard. You look at the other team, it's a total opposite sort of situation. Payne Haas is a good player, don't get me wrong, but he just does the standards. He's not really looking for the offload. Max King, not a star. Spencer Lenu comes onto the field and doesn't even get a touch in the first set. What's doing there? New South Wales are clearly in the round. Isaiah Yeo looked like he was all at sea. Liam Martin wasn't his usual self. He put a few big hits in, but he wasn't really himself. I guess Crichton was nowhere to be seen. There's some very disappointing forward pack situations for them. I know they would have been doing a lot of tackling, but when they come to attack, they weren't pointed at all. They weren't breaking the line. They weren't doing anything. It was really, really disappointing. And Latrell sort of came to light a little bit in the game, but it still really was very disappointing for New South Wales fans. But in terms of Queensland, wow, Munster. And Dearden, of course. What a selection from Billy Slater to put Cameron's Munster new captain. That was an inspired choice. To drop DCE, unbelievable. To bring in Dearden. And you can't say Tom Dearden was in great form for the Cowboys either, but DCE's just gone absolutely backwards this season. To bring Hammer, I thought Hammer left a couple of tries out there in the Origin game. The first one, it was, I can't remember who was supposed to pass it on the inside. Ruben Cotter. If Ruben Cotter had passed that earlier, not last minute, they would have scored easily if he passed it at the right time. There was a big gap there, but he passed it a bit late, and the pass wasn't the greatest. So that was a costly try. And there was a couple of times the players didn't even look for the offload. Hammer was right there. If they passed him, he was away. So there was something for Queensland that maybe they can do better in the future. So Hammer's a very support player. Reminds me of the likes of the Wade McKinnons, who just always there looking for the ball, looking for that opportunity to get that offload. That's who he reminds me of. But Hammer obviously got way more speed than Wade McKinnon, so that makes him a super freak. The forward pack was just outstanding. Carrigan, unbelievable when he came on. Papali'i did his job. He didn't have to do much. He was more there to improve the others around him, give them the confidence, and that's what he did. Tino was his usual Tino. But yeah, Tom Dearden, star of the show, no doubt about it. He was the gun. He was the glue. He really stepped up in the second half when Munster went a little bit away from the game, to be honest. He was pretty quiet in the second half, Munster, which is understandable under the circumstances. He still did some kicks and some runs, but he wasn't as potent as the first half. But yeah, so Dearden, well done for player of the series, outstanding. But what about New South Wales? See you later. Before we get back to New South Wales, Shibasaki and Robert Toya, congratulations to you both. Because Latrell and Stephen Crichton did not even look likely virtually the whole game. Latrell a couple of times did some stuff, but yeah, very much an interesting. Again, it was another one that was raging hot favourite New South Wales. So Daley must be looking out the door. Out the door. See you later. Won't get picked again. You got to drop him. You got to. If they don't drop Laurie Daley, they'll lose again next season. Absolutely, just doesn't even look like he should be in the Origin. I got no offense. He would have been. He was a great player, but when it comes to coaching, he doesn't even look like he's excited. Um, I know it's just his persona, but he doesn't even give anything at press conferences or anything. He's just he doesn't have to be Madge Maguire in terms of entertainment, but he can show a bit more passion like Ricky Stewart and the likes. It just doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't have the passion, but it just from the outside looking in, for any punter out there, they'll think, who is this guy? He doesn't really give a care about his state. We see Billy Slater put in big statements, even though he might have stuffed up with the Paul Green situation, but he really gives it the go. But yeah, he was out selected at the table. I mean, New South Wales say they had the best team. They continue to say they have that, but when it comes to Origin, it's totally different to club football. And it's about heart, about grit. Have you got that in you? And New South Wales didn't have it. Absolutely didn't have it. They didn't even look like they were invested in the game at all. Obviously, Queensland had an extra motivation, which pretty much I think the game was over once that happened, because Queensland were not going to play a bad game. Once something like that happens to one of your teammates, you rally around them. And it was up to New South Wales to get to their level, and they did not get there. Who was disappointing? I think Dylan Edwards was probably one of the worst. I really think he did nothing, absolutely nothing. He was rubbish, honestly, absolute. Tedesco probably should have been there. I don't know. I know Dylan Edwards is a good player, but he's not. He's not a game breaker. He's a meter reader. You could argue Tedesco's not a game breaker either, but he used to be. But yeah, Dylan Edwards is not really a game breaker. He's more of a toiler, which you do need those sort of players. But he just doesn't have that absolute pinpoint speed that the Hammer has, that Reece Walsh has. At times they can just go boom into a gap and away they go. So that's something they'll have to decide on going forward, because there is a couple of other young players around. Does Katoa come in next season? That's a big call. Do they drop Luai and put Katoa in? Because Luai, at times, he's a bit like Mitchell to me. At times he's brilliant, but then sometimes he goes missing in the big key moments, which is what you don't need. You need people that are going to go and take the moments. And no one took the moment for New South Wales. Nobody. I think Mitchell tried. Latrell Mitchell, I think he was trying to do something, but he wasn't getting that great a service at times. Yeah, I don't know. Cleary, he's done some great things, and absolutely grand final Savannah-like, but in terms of New South Wales, he has not. He has won series, but he hasn't really delivered their game. I'm not saying he won't do it, but at the moment, he should have iced that game. He really should have. He really should have iced that game, but he was not even in the conversation, and obviously injuries was the key thing for New South Wales. There's quite a few players injured, but Toho put his hand held high. He didn't do much training, but he still turned up and was outstanding. You could argue he was up there with the best in the series, but they gave it to Tom Dearden. But yes, in terms of New South Wales, it's a long way back to the top of the footy. Well, just a couple of things from the footy coming up this weekend. Galvin, back to 14. What do they do there? Should he be in reserve grade? I nearly think so. I don't know. I mean, he could bring some stuff off the bench, but I think it's just one of those things. It's hard to gel when it's last minute into the season to make these changes. They were winning. Now that they've got rid of him, there's no doubt, 100% he has been the Toby Sexton. No doubt about it, but he wasn't there in the preseason, and Sexton has been there. He knows all the calls and that. Galvin seems to be a bit of a rogue doing his own thing. Unless yeah, it's an interesting selection dilemma there. And finally, we'll finish on the Warriors. Yes, Tuapiki back at fullback. Tanah Boyd. Can he do it? He's been given the opportunity to start, which I think basically, I think the main thing was goal kicking, and obviously he's got a good kick on him. I just hope he delivers at NRL level because he's got the potential to do what Luke Metcalf did. It's just whether or not he can go to that next level. Remember, at some point he was above Toby Sexton in the pecking order at Titans, which is not much to say there, but if he can go to that sort of level of Sexton and maybe even above that, the Warriors' season is not dead and buried yet. They've got a good draw of the Warriors. They can really go and get on a roll and find some confidence for the young fellas because they're going to need it if they're going to have any chance in the series because they just got to keep winning and put pressure on other teams. But anyway, that's a Barry Charles Footy show for this episode. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you for another video.